Planning to study in Australia? Excellent choice. But in this video, I'll give you the harsh realities you might come across in Australia as an international student. And by no means this video is about discouraging you or scaring you about your plans for studying in Australia, but rather giving you a realistic and a balanced view of the things you need to know before coming here, so you are well prepared for your journey as an international student. Without wasting a minute, let's go and discuss about these harsh realities. The number one on our list is cost of living. Now, some of you might have watched our previous video in regards to the monthly cost of living, and we do have actually a couple of videos regarding monthly cost of living in Australia. One was recently shot, like nearly a month ago, and the previous one was shot maybe 3-4 years back, and I highly suggest you to watch both of them. The reason being, the cost of living in Australia has significantly risen over the last 3-4 years, especially thanks to COVID-19 pandemic and inflation. So that's one of the realities you're gonna face when you come here as an international student. Generally speaking, Australia is an expensive place to live in, and as an international student, while you're juggling between paying your tuition fee and your living cost and also doing some saving at the same time, it can become a little bit of a challenge to manage all these things, especially if the cost of living is on the higher side. I would definitely suggest you to watch those monthly living cost videos if you haven't watched it yet, as they give you a realistic numbers in regards to living cost here in Australia. But to give you a context, on an average you could be spending anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a month for your living costs only, and we're not even talking about tuition fee costs. Obviously the cost of living could vary depending upon your lifestyle, the city you're living in, and many other factors, but this is just an estimated number of how much you could be spending. Now, to overcome this situation, what you can do obviously is to find a part-time work, which on a student visa luckily you're allowed to do, and manage some of those expenses with those part-time jobs that you can get here. Now, one of the things you can do to overcome this situation is to start doing some budgeting. You need to make sure that you create your own budget each month on how much money you're earning and how much money you're spending. Also, try to find a way to save up some money, especially in regards to your rental costs, which you can do by sharing an accommodation with other housemates. Also, instead of eating out too much, maybe start looking at options to cook at home, because usually it works out to be cheaper to cook at home rather than eating out. And wherever possible, start taking advantage of some student discounts. Now, there are options to go to food banks as well if you are really in a desperate situation. They usually provide either free meals, or you can get free groceries, or pay very little amount of money to get these groceries from these food banks. We actually have a whole article on how to save money if you are living in Australia as an international student, with discounts and tips and tricks included. So make sure to check that link in the description box below. Now, moving on to the second reality you might face, which is regarding your accommodation. Finding an accommodation in Australia has been a great challenge, especially over the last year or so. Since the borders have reopened, as many migrants are moving back, or some temporary migrants like students are coming back to study in Australia, Australia is facing a desperate situation in regards to finding houses for these migrants and people in general here in Australia. And it's not only just the migrants who are facing the brunt, it's also the local Australians who are also facing difficulties in finding accommodation. Either many people can't find the houses at all, or some people find that the rental costs have gone significantly higher in the last year or so, which makes things worse for everyone. And it is expected that over the next 4 years, around 1.2 million people might be arriving in Australia, especially the people on the temporary visas. And at the moment, there is not enough supply to meet the demand of all these people who might come into Australia. Now, as an international student, what can you do to overcome this situation? So my suggestion would be to actually go out and book your accommodation before coming to Australia. So if you can find an accommodation before coming to Australia, that is kind of very important to do that these days. But it's also important to note that when you're booking your things online, you have to be careful about some scams that could happen as well. So you need to find out reliable websites and sources in order to find these accommodations. You can either book them through your university, or if you have a friend or a relative who's living here in Australia can help you out with this accommodation situation, that will be great. So again, try to book that thing nice and early before coming to Australia. Moving on to the next point, which is regarding the jobs. Now, unemployment rate in Australia has been low for quite some time, which is a good news. But generally speaking, over the last few months, especially from the start of 2023, we have seen a huge influx influx of students and migrants coming to the country, which means some of these jobs has been taken over by these students or migrants, which is great for the businesses because they were struggling to find people during the COVID times. But as the students are arriving back, there are people who are looking for jobs, which means these jobs can be filled up. Now that also means that there will be fewer jobs available in the market in general. Especially for the new students who are coming in, it can be a little bit of challenge to get a job right away. The reality is when borders were open and many students started coming back, they could easily find any job they wanted to do. But as the number has grown over the last few months, it is a little bit of a challenge to get a job right away if you are coming into Australia. And as you know that from 1st of July 2023, the visa restrictions are coming back as well, with students allowed to work only 48 hours per fortnight, which means students will be limited to the work they can do in a fortnight or in a week, especially during their study periods. Now, in regards to overcome some of these challenges, especially regarding the employment, what I suggest you to do is to prepare your resume before you land here in Australia and get yourself organized within a week so that you can start looking for jobs right away. Also, undertake some short courses when you arrive here in Australia. If you want to know more about these short courses, we'll leave the link of that in the description box below. And as soon as you arrive here in Australia, I want you to start improving and working on your network, which means to meet new people and try to build a network of people who can help you to land your job and make a good career here in Australia. We actually have a video on it as well regarding how you can find a job within 1 week of arriving in Australia. I would suggest you to check that video after watching this video. The next challenge or issue you would face would be in regards to the cultural differences. Australia is a multicultural country and it is a proud multicultural country with people of different origins, countries, cultural background, religions living here peacefully. Now as a student, when you come here for the first time, you can find some of these challenges in regards to language, especially the Australian accent. It might be a little bit challenging to understand it for a while, as Australians like to abbreviate everything they say, which means they try to make everything in short. Also, you might face the challenges in regards to the social norms or general customs here in Australia. It could be regarding the workplace culture or it could be regarding the general social norms. As an example, I was invited to a birthday party here in Australia. As like back home, I thought when a person's inviting you for a birthday party, they would actually pay for the bill and you need to bring a gift for them. And I end up actually bringing a gift. But when I went to the party, I realized that everyone was paying their own bill, which I am perfectly okay with, but it was quite a different experience considering what we used to do back home. So you might come across some of these differences in your life here as an international student. So my suggestion would be to start learning some of the Australian slangs they use commonly here and also start learning about Australian culture in general. Like for example, the things they do differently here in Australian workplaces. And we actually have a very detailed video on that as well. So please make sure to check that video out. But apart from workplaces in general, social norms, and even in your university life, what things are done differently, you need to learn them before coming to Australia. You can also seek some support from your university as well when you arrive here in Australia as well. And once you arrive here, I also suggest you to become a part of a community member organization here in Australia. It could be a volunteer organization that will help you to understand better about local norms here in Australia. The next one is homesickness. Now, homesickness is quite a big thing for international students, and rightfully so, as most of the international students don't have their family along with them here while they are studying, and living away from family and a friend is quite a big challenge. So in regards to this challenge, when you feel homesick, what I suggest you to do is to connect with your family on a regular basis. Especially with technology these days, you can do a video call with your family back home. When I was a student, I used to connect with my family on a regular basis, maybe sometimes even every day or every second day as well. Apart from talking with your family and friends back home, I also suggest you to build new friendships here in Australia as well. Of course, when you're studying here, you will have other people from different backgrounds, cultures, and communities in your classes. So try to build a relationship with them and try to make some new friends here in Australia as well. And if it is getting beyond your control, I highly recommend you to seek expert advice, maybe even a mental health support if needed. Or if you just need a counseling, you can certainly take that option as well. But but don't think there is no support available if you are facing homesickness. The next one on our list is academic pressure. Now, Australian universities do rank really well among the top universities in the world, which is a very good thing because it tells that Australia has very high quality standards for education. But these high standards also means high academic expectations and pressure on international students. Some of the challenges you may come across would be to understand the academic system, how it works, and also adjusting to a new university culture and even the language that you may come across from your lecturers or tutors. Now, in regards to overcoming this issue, I would highly recommend you to seek support from your academic departments of a university, especially if you're facing a difficulty in regards to your assessments, your exams. You need to go out and seek support right away. Very important to manage your time effectively as well, so that you don't come under too much stress in regards to your studies. As an international student, you are juggling three important things in your life by yourself: studying, working, and living. And it's important to have a right balance for all three of them. So make sure to create a time management plan where you can allocate some time for your studies, for your work, and for your social things as well. We actually have a template for time management as well. If you want that, please check the link in the description box below. And before coming to Australia, I would highly recommend that you look into the Australian academic system as well. What are the things you need to be mindful of in regards to your studies, especially when it comes to assignments, exams, and things like that, so that you understand the system well. We actually have a video on how to do your assignments as well in Australia. Please check that video by clicking the link in the description box below. And obviously, last but not the least, one of the challenge would be to settling abroad. Generally speaking, some students after completing their study may like to settle in that country itself. And understanding the legal requirements and the visa frameworks and the point system is quite a lot of work. So in my suggestion, I would recommend you that you seek and help from a registered migration agent who can help you out with your dreams of settling abroad if you have one. One of the reasons for speaking to a registered migration agent is that they can give you a legal advice regarding visas and your options for settling abroad. So if that's your career dream or goal, then speaking to a registered migration agent will help. So that was all the things you might come across as a harsh reality as an international student in Australia. We covered various topics in the video, including cost of living, accommodation, job, cultural differences, homesickness, academic pressure, and settling abroad. Now I would love to hear your thoughts about this video in the comment section below as well. Which challenge would be the most difficult one for you to overcome, you think? Please let me know in the comment section below. Of course, nothing is impossible to achieve in our life, but it's very important to be realistic. So I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section below. And if you find any value from today's video, please make sure to share it with your friends as well. And I highly recommend you to download our overseas student guide if you haven't downloaded it already. And as always, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.